Hello everybody, how are things? Today we will speak about corpus linguistics. We will discuss corpus and corpus linguistics and the types of corpora. Corpus is a principled and large collection body of authentic text that are stored in a computer and analyzed using software designed for corpus analysis. Corpus is a Latin word that mean a body. Body refers to body of text. Now I want to explain the definition of corpus. So you have already a goal or an objective in mind. Then you collect your data down, data according to that objective that you have. Now collecting the text for the corpus is a planned operation, not random. So researchers normally have a research question in mind before they start compiling the corpus. Now, effective texts refer to naturally occurring examples of language. So we have spoken and written. Now, authentic texts refer to genuine communications, and so the language used must be naturally. So how it large? It depends on corpus and the research objectives. For example, journals, newspapers, TV shows, formal or informal, etc. Now it's large of data, but one because it should reflect how, for example, how British people use English generally, a variety of contexts. So in this case, you need a large amount of data. Now, why large and authentic text? Corpus is representative sample of language use, and you cannot possibly collect all of the instances of any language. So that it represents the language you intend to to investigate. That why we need large amount of data and authentic. Now, why stored in a computer? Why do we need to sort our data in a computer? Storing text in a computer makes the corpus analysis easy and precise. A computer allows for fast and accurate analysis of large amount of data. Why accurate? The computer can give you a very precise, very accurate numbers. There is no doubt about that, but if the analysis accurate, well, that will depend on how you design the corpus and what statistical measures you use to analyze your data. A computer can give insights into patterns not easily detectable by humans. Well, since the computer analyzes millions and millions of data, then some patterns will emerge, and these patterns may not be easily detectable by us or follow in our intuition. So the computer has that advantage. So, nevertheless, a computer, no matter how good it is, has its limitations. Unfortunately, since everything has its limitations, well, a computer also, no matter how good it is, has its limitations. Now, as for corpus linguistics is a tool or method to study language and investigate linguistic phenomena. Corpus linguistics is the study language using a collection of texts. So corpus linguistic is the study of language using corpora. And corpus linguistics is methodology but not theory. Now, why methodology? It is a methodology for approaching the study of language. It will allow us to approach language and describe, test out hypotheses. So it's an interface with theory of language. So you can't act the corpus without having some linguistic knowledge. If you have some theories about how language works, you might be able to use a corpus. So there are two components of corpus linguistics. The first one is corpus linguistic, and the second one related to translation studies. Since we speak translations, we talk about language. Is not language, but also structure, strategies, problems, etc. Why do we use a corpus? So we can say I would investigate something. I want to investigate text, for example, about language and text and how these texts are translated. And I will create a couple of books. I will talk about to some people about those, and then hypotheses on that basis. So we should be looking of language as it is and looking at large amounts of data to tell us about things which typically we find very hard to think about the certainly to express using into which in alone or even chatting through a few people about the use of language. Why? Because in corpus linguistics we study language in use, and I will find corpus as a set of language data in usable by computers. And corpus linguistics is the study of language in real settings. So use of corpora enable to investigate some information that we cannot realize, and language component and language performance. Language component is related to our knowledge about language, and language performance is related to the way we use the knowledge, that competence. Now, why do we use corpora in linguistic studies? Now, for example, they compared Coca with PNC and compiled with results. And corpora reveal instances of very rare or exceptional cases. Also, human researchers make mistakes and are slow, but computers are much quicker and more accurate. Now, can you ask a human to generate a frequency list of 10 million corpus? It's impossible. Now here the criteria when we follow for compiling a corpus. Corpus is usually large of text. It should be representative of language, of genre of language. Now if you want to investigate something in media, you should not have media text. Now the corpus should be machine readable form and acts as a standard reference about what typical in language. Now this is strongly associated with the idea of representativeness and the idea of balance. Now corpora are often annotated with additional linguistic information. There are two types of corpora based on mood. The first one is written, like newspapers, students writing, etc. And spoken, like interviews, speeches, business meetings, and talk shows, etc. And also we have another one like written to be spoken. For example, scripts of series. Now there are types of corpora based on content. For example, reference, specialized corpora, comparable corpora, and parallel corpus. The first one, reference. Reference corpora or general corpora. It's very large, containing millions of words from many contents, like spoken, written language, informal, formal style. For example, PNC is general corpus. Why? Because it has kind of spoken text as well as written text. Why you have spoken and written text? It's easier to compile written text rather than spoken text because of different reasons. Now, spoken text, you need to have the recording first, then to transcribe it, then have it in text formatting. Now, the second one, specialized corpora. This is different from a general. Contain texts that are specific to one or more subject, areas, domains, topics, genres, registers, texts. This This used to investigate certain linguistic phenomena. For example, in academic writings, then you collect only academic writings. So you will have specialized corpus because the language that is used in academic writing is obviously differs from the language that is used in everyday conversation or informal conversation, etc. For example, I have a time span. So I have divided the speeches based on types. For example, book, letters, interviews, each one alone. The key point here is that you need to have some particular guidelines to follow. For, for example, restricted to only relevant texts based on research problem and, and research questions. Now we will discuss in specialized corpus the theme. For example, I want to investigate how for example, some events were represented in American newspapers before and after these events. This called theme. And also we have a query word. For example, we have a word and we can spelling it in different ways. So for that we called it specialized corpus. In specialized we restrict our research include only some text, not all texts, but the text that can help us answer our research questions. In specialized, the source of data was for example, American newspaper that is mainly published in English. This published and this specialized corpus. Now the third one, comparable corpora. In comparable corpora, you have two or more language with the same or similar composition. In comparable corpus, we have two language. For example, the source of data, newspaper, American newspapers, and for example, the PAN, Arab newspapers, for example, Al Jazeera or another channel. Two languages. So the time span is the same of specialized corpus, and the theme is same. Now the difference between parallel and comparable corpora, that parallel is the same text which is translated to other language. But in comparable we have two texts of more than one language compiled the same way and in the same topic. In comparable we have interpreting speech from many languages and written translation in the same text. So comparable corpora are used to investigate language for specific purposes. They can be monolingual, bilingual, or even multilingual. They are not used in translation as translation requires in parallel corpora. Parallel corpora are used for direct comparison of translation language, as the source and target language coexist. Now, multilingual corpora can be used in translation if they are parallel. Usually, designing a multilingual parallel corpus is time-consuming and arduous, which make it a less wanted corpus. As an example, they can be used to see how one word or expression is translated into language 1 and language 2. However, multilingual corpora are frequently used in contrastive studies. And also parallel corpora are large collections of original text in one language and their translations in another language. Parallel corpus can be used to study different aspects of language, features of source and target languages, the influence of source language on target language, the translation studies used, and the ideology and style of individual translators. But comparable corpus is two corpora in two different languages, which come from the same domain, different text in two or more languages, and they may be in the same topic. Comparable corpora is that they put together according to the same type of criteria. Parallel and comparable corpus are used to investigate regularities of translated text, regularities of translators, and the regularities of language. In contrast, parallel and comparable corpora are similar reference to bilingual, multilingual, aligned, comparative, and concurrent corpora. Now, also, do you think that specialized corpora are useful in translation studies? Yes, specialized corpora can be used in translation if they are parallel. Inherently, any parallel corpus is specialized as it falls within a specific genre or type. However, specialized corpora are mostly used for purposes other than translation. Now, we discussed in this video corpus and introduction of corpus and corpus linguistics and why we use corpus in translation studies and some types of corpus and linguistic studies, sometimes of corpora. In the next videos, I will discuss and explain the techniques used in corpus and some softwares also. Just subscribe and comment this video. Thanks for you.